Welcome, folks, to our webinar today, which is all about mental health. Very apt this week, of course, because this week from Monday through Friday is Mental Health Awareness Week. And we thought as a team we would do our part as well, because not only obviously within our personal lives, but also within regards to work, we've all been affected. In various ways, of course, some more serious than others, of course. But really the idea behind this webinar today, and it's quite a short webinar of 30 minutes. What we want to do as a team is really discuss through conversation over the first 20 minutes some topics we think and we feel are relevant to mental health that we've come across, and perhaps even some recommendations as well that we think would help. And we'll leave the last 10 minutes really for any questions, or indeed any discussion, any points that you want to bring up yourselves as learners, or indeed as potential learners who've seen this advertised. So just before we do kick off, just by way of introduction, and in case those who don't know, my name is Mark. I'm the training manager for ELN. And also on the call today, we have got Dee. Please say hello, Dee.
Hi.
Dee is the assessment tutor assessor, and we have Tony. Tony, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And Tony is involved with education training, the level 4 CET, amongst other things such as AET. And we've also got Farheen as well, who has some issues with her internet today, but hopefully she'll be able to say hello.
Hi, everyone.
There we go, coming through loud and clear. Thanks, Farheen. So that's the team on today's call. We've also got Sana, our boss, of course, who is moderating today, and if anyone else misbehaves, she will have also off very swift. I promise you that. Okay. So before we actually crack into our informal chat conversation as such, actually took some time and looked up the Mental Health UK website yesterday, and interestingly enough, they've outlined 5 ways to well-being, and obviously the main focus of which is this week. And interestingly enough, number 5 is keep learning. Okay, it's obviously very apt what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, it's very topical. It's high up on the list of helping people's mental health through difficult times. So yeah, that's where we'll kick off really. So what I want to start off as challenges, I suppose, as a team that we've come across within the last year and a half. Tony, do you want to start us off? Any particular anecdotes you want to tell us about, or any things you've?
Yeah, Mark, I think the biggest thing that we've seen since March last year was the complete upheaval to people's lives, and then the subsequent implications of that upheaval. So everything from uncertainty, which has been really difficult anyway, through to people being put on furlough, so not necessarily having access to their normal daily work. For a CET, that's incredibly demotivating, because a lot of the answers are actually based on what you're doing, and you have to be able to evidence your teaching and your normal practice. So we've had people get in touch saying, hey, look, I've been put on furlough, I'm not teaching, I'm not doing anything anymore. What does that mean for the course? There's been some quite extreme situations as well, where we know people have actually lost their jobs through this, and that's unfolded as the pandemic's unfolded, really. So it's been quite it's hard to find words that adequately describe it. I was going to say disruptive, but that just feels slightly understated.
It's challenging, Tony.
Yeah, challenging. Yeah, we have to remember that we're a family show, so there are other words that we could use, I'm sure, but awful springs to mind.
Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Dee? Any sort of?
Yeah, well, much the same with my learners, because obviously doing assessing courses, 2 of the units are practical. So a lot of those have had to have been stopped, because a lot of industries have literally just stopped, tools down and off you go. So, and same as Tony, so I've had to learners that have lost jobs. And actually I was speaking to somebody this morning that was quite interesting, because she's okay, but some of her college students have dropped out that she was using for her assessments. So she's now got to restart some of her work again, because the work she's done is irrelevant, because she hasn't got the students anymore to finish it off. So yeah, challenges that you don't actually expect, as well as to your own mental health when you're not out there socializing with other people as well. So
I think with all the sort of negative aspects of what COVID brought about and all the challenges that it give to learners, indeed ourselves as well as tutors, there have been some positive aspects, I think, that we can sort of grip onto as well. In terms of perhaps people being more focused, now albeit having to be in lockdown and being focused as perhaps indoors, but certainly with perhaps a loss of job, furlough, maybe that just made them think about a different direction in learning, different maybe job as such. So that's, you can look at everything negative, totally, but hopefully that's at least one thing that can be sort of looked upon as a positive as such, that the opportunity was there to be focused because you're not moving very far as such, you have no real choice. And really that sort of energy enabled, and I know certainly some learners I've come across, it enabled them to channel that sort of energy into completing qualifications and then hopefully moving on to a better position in the future.
And refocus life. I think people have been able to sit back and think about what they really want out of life now sometimes, and that's made them realise they might want to go in a different direction and things like that. So it doesn't necessarily have had to have been forced on them from losing a job or something, but they may just have thought, you know what, I like being at home more, or I like doing this more. So I think it's been an interesting time, both, like you say, positively and negatively.
I mean, certainly at the start of the pandemic, certainly February, March time, or even January time, when things just started to really, was it last year, obviously, things started to come to the front in terms of how bad the pandemic was going to be. People did, sort of put things into context, really, their own life, suppose, as well, didn't they? And sort of thought what was important to them in life, and as time has gone through, as you say, Dee, they've reassessed their lives, and their circumstances, and hopefully made positive changes.
And I think in the early days there was a strong sense of uncertainty. So people, I think, in the early days were thinking, well, it might all be over in 2 or 3 months or whatever. So there are a lot of people who are left sort of not knowing which way to turn. And again, it was because it was so new, I think we all accepted there was maybe a fear around it. It helped, I think, that the weather was amazing. So even though we were stuck at home, we could actually sit in our gardens, and perhaps we were reconnecting with our nearest and dearest that we don't necessarily see all that much of when we're out at work. But I would say that the last 6 months have most definitely been the worst for me personally, definitely, because although I'm used to working from home, I really do miss meeting people face to face on a regular basis. And I think a lot of people that I've talked to have experienced the same thing, that the winter, dark, cold, and the weather hasn't been brilliant. All of those things have had a disproportionate effect on us, I think, since...
It's a roller coaster, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I started off initially thinking, 3 weeks, that's fine, I can deal with that. That's an elongated holiday. And then as time went on, it got longer and longer. And obviously I was in a different industry then. I was actually hairdressing. And I then tumbled mentally, because at that point I didn't know where I was going with my life. So, and then I got this job and things have changed again. So I've gone back up again. So it's that whole roller coaster.
So thinking along the lines of how we actually help people, because I know we all have, we've seen everyday submissions roll in and requests and bits and pieces. So certainly, can you maybe think of any ways which you've specifically helped learners, without mentioning any names, anything you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, from the CET perspective, we've been able to help people in terms of number of observations. So a little bit into the pandemic, everybody's turned around and accepted online observations, which has been great. That's helped some, providing, of course, they were still actually doing work. For those that were put on furlough, we've just had the approach that says, right, if you're not working, you can't contribute to the course. we'll just extend you until such time as things ease. And some students I know went back to work in the sort of latter part of last year, only to then be put on furlough again, which was incredibly disruptive. But our approach has always been the same. Talk to us, tell us what your situation is, and we'll help you to the best of our ability. And I think the awarding bodies have supported that as well, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, there have been quite a few reasonable adjustments, and obviously we've helped people be transferring these across where we can, of course. It doesn't always suit everybody, but certainly the awarding bodies have played their part.
I think also helping people to do what they can do, because there are, you know, certain, especially with the assessors, there's the unit, the theory units and the bits like that. And I think it's helped people to be able to encourage them and to say, come on, you can do this, let's talk about it, let's have a go, so that they don't just sit back and give up. Because I think that was an easy thing to do, is when you get those sorts of, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, it's easy to sit back and go, well, why am I bothering then? When actually there were other little things they could do. So, you know, encouraging where you could as well to make them sort of do their best. And I did have one guy who lost his job, did a couple of courses, and through chatting to me, he did one course, then he did another course, and then he did another course, and he's actually now got a job in teaching, which he's really
excellent.
He never expected to do.
Right.
So yeah, just that encouragement and knowing that, you know, there's somebody there to support them. And like Tony said, the communication thing is just massive. I think stay in touch and let's work together.
Certainly. Sorry, Farheen.
I've also helped a few learners by extending their course because they were unable to finish it during the time, and you know, if they were going through a problem, so they told me and they trusted me with it, and they said that if you could just extend it for a week and then we'll try and finish it. So I was like, yeah, sure. So we extended their courses, we helped them and supported them in whatever questions they needed. We did live sessions for them. So, you know, it really did help them to get on with the course and finish and complete it.
Excellent. Excellent. So really what I'm trying to bring it round to is, you know, how can we actually help from today's discussion? What can we actually recommend to current and potential learners, suppose, moving forward? Anybody any ideas, or what you know, already doing perhaps, or any ideas?
I just think the communication thing, I think, you know, stay in touch and we are there to help you. And I think that's the great thing about ELN as well, is we're not just an online course. We are real people and we are here to help you. And we've all been through things ourselves. We've all had issues ourselves. We've all been through the lockdown with you. We know the things that you're going through. So, you know, come to us and talk to us. Don't just hide away and sort of dive down, really. Personally, that's what I think. What about you, Tony?
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. There's nothing upsets me more than when somebody kind of comes to me and then it comes out that they've been struggling for, you know, weeks or months, or I didn't know what to do. And it's like, oh, please just talk to us. Because if we know about the problem, we can help. You know, I can't guarantee to make everything go away. I can't cure the lockdown or any other bit. But, you know, just talking to folk, there's so many things that we can do. And I think that because we are human beings ourselves and we do care about you all, that is what sets us apart from some of the other online training providers where you never meet your tutor or whatever. So now's the time to kind of take advantage of the fact that we are here and that we are prepared to help, and that you're all individuals. So yes, we've got some different strategies that we can use to help, like, you know, extending courses or, you know, advising you to go online. And if you're not sure about how to run a Zoom session or anything, then we can help with that. But everybody's different. So what works for one might not work for another. So I don't want to imply that we've just got one solution and we'll kind of force it to fit. We'll work around you and help you understand what you need. I mean, there's been some amazing stories in terms of people coming on and getting a course done in record time. You know, completion times for some have been unprecedented. I know Farheen, who looks after a lot of the AET, she's seen some incredible activities from certain students.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I've had completions within 10 days and 8 days, and they've done great. And mostly the challenges I come across is a micro teach, because they can't find people to, you know, teach, and 3 people sitting in a room together since the lockdown and everything was kind of impossible for them. So Zoom really helped, and, you know, micro teach worked out for them, and for them, for most of them, it was the first experience teaching online too. So they learned, they liked it, and maybe we need to go on like that now, teaching remotely.
Well, people
Things have
that
changed so much
in that area as well, haven't they? And that's
yeah, and they're learning and they really like it.
I think
because
from my
it
own,
needs to go on.
sorry, Fran.
No, sorry, please go on.
Sorry, Fran.
Go on.
You.
I think certainly from my own point of view, my personal advice would be to sort of have that plan, you know, prior to even signing up, or even though you're on a course. It's never too late to have a plan, have an end state in mind, and where you want to be within that certain date, you know, because certainly at ELM, what we can help with is obviously, you know, we chat about learning plans all the time, but we can actually make you, you know, meet your particular deadline, your personal deadline, as it were. So yeah, main things about, you know, keeping positive, you know, seeing every opportunity perhaps as a learning opportunity, CPD courses perhaps. And even look at things we've done ourselves, you know, that other people can perhaps, you know, mimic as well. We've had virtual days out, so we had, which worked very well. We were all locked in jail at one stage for a couple of hours. Some it wasn't the first time, however, we'll keep that for another day. And we do hold no work meetings every week as well, which certainly takes a focus away from the work environment. Because at the end of the day, as I said at the very start, it's about everybody's mental health, not just learners, but tutors as well. Because the tutors only get tutor whenever they're pretty positive themselves, you know.
A lot of people have missed that communication and that interaction with people. So to have those sorts of days and chats and meetings and stuff where it takes it away from work and just keeps it interesting and casual and getting to know people and chatting about what you might be doing, it makes a difference to how you feel, doesn't it?
Definitely. Definitely.
I think someone's made a few people have talked about how wonderful it's been that we've been able to go online and talk to people, and I totally agree. I mean, even doing this session today, it's incredible to think that we can kind of reach out to so many students and have a really great conversation. I think whether we like it or not, remote teaching is here to stay, but what this is doing is actually forcing us to think about teaching in a different way. And I know a couple of people just in some of the comments have said, you know, it's been great because we've been able to reach out to people and keep things going. But has anyone noticed how tiring it is running an online session if you've done one? I've done quite a few, especially in the early days as part of another contract I was involved in. And it is exhausting to a level that I'd never anticipated. And I didn't think about it at the time. But so many of the non-verbal communication methods that we rely on innately, because that's how we are born and develop, aren't available online. And I've done some research and study just recently into how these interactions work and trying to understand why it's so tiring. And a lot of it boils down to the fact that when you're sat next to someone, you can see more than just their head and shoulders, and that you're not looking at yourself at the same time, which I find very disconcerting. And, you know, if you then add to that maybe another 7 or 8 people all in that environment, just trying to keep a track of everything. And, and Chelsea said, you know, there's so much more preparation. Totally right. I think the big mistake that a lot of, should we say, firms have made is thinking that it's just a matter of transferring the lesson plan to an online environment and setting their teams up on Teams or Zoom or whatever and going, there you go, crack on. It's not that easy, is it?
No.
I think body language is the what. Sorry, Mark.
No, go ahead, Dee. Crack on.
Because I know from teaching in class myself that you get a lot from people and the way they behave and things like that. And when you're just seeing head and shoulders, you don't get that anymore. You don't get the shuffles or the hands together or whatever when people are nervous or they're not quite sure. And it's things like that, or even the excitement of people coming in. It's all very much, you know, I'm okay now. So yeah, I think the body language thing's a massive thing.
Totally. When you look at, sorry, Mark, go on.
No, Tony, go ahead.
When you look at all of the studies, that's what they kind of pin it down to. I think Nicolette made another good point as well, which ties into that. It's very easy not to take breaks. You just get drawn into this online world, and you know, maybe you can sit down in the morning and forget to stand up until tea time, You know, if you're not used to it, it's very easy to fall into that. So all sorts of, there's some wonderful stuff coming out in the chats as well from Fiona and Sam.
Yeah, so I'm going to use this last 10 minutes, guys, to sort of hand it across to the people watching, honestly.
Yeah.
Sana, and I know you've been watching the chat box probably more closely than we have there. If anybody wishes to enter the conversation now, for example, they can, or any questions I have there, or anything they want to ask us as a team. Nothing there.
Yep, I'm just, Tony did a really great job towards the end there to respond to everyone, and you know, there's a wonderful discussion going. Just wanted to kind of quickly summarize the different points I've seen coming up, and in the meantime, if anyone wants to have a quick chat or ask a live question, let us know and we can unmute you and you can just have a quick chat with the panelists today live. So yeah, so a couple of points that came up. Nicolette suggested that group chats on phones for her learners and having fun activities has really helped keeping the learners engaged and motivated. And she said on her own course, the communications from the tutor kept her motivated. So communication is key. Chelsea chimed in and definitely agreed with that. And funny enough, we use Kahoot as well, but in our non-work meets, more for fun. But Chelsea actually said that she put her students' mock exams up on Kahoot, and she said that it really worked really well for her. Fiona had some really great suggestions as well. She's also using groups and chats and has been part of a lot of Zoom sessions, and she basically was saying that it's been a lifesaver for her. And you can, you know, different people were saying also that you can even give out handouts and extra materials to the learners on these forums. And I did ask actually if they, you know, if learners have been actually good with giving their phone numbers to participate, you know, their personal numbers to participate in the group chats. And apparently, yes, so people have been very keen and engaged in doing that. And yeah, as I had a really long, really wonderful message from Sam. Thank you very much, Sam. And it's basically about helping students structure their days. And there was so much there. Sam, if you want to have a go and unmute yourself and just say everything that you were saying, I'll do my best to summarize. But there were group activities, they do mindful walks, and they do all sorts of stuff like sports and art enrichment classes and even screenings for short films. I think that's fantastic. You know, and I'm sure that's had a really positive effect on the mental health and engagement of the learners. But I think Sam raised a really good point that it is difficult to maintain trust and intimacy through these online forums. So I don't know if the panelists want to have a go at, you know, just quickly, how do you think we could maintain trust and intimacy through online mediums?
Guys, anybody? Yeah, far away.
I would say it's got to start with communication. And the other thing is, as a tutor, I think you've got to recognise that the environment is different. So you've got to find ways of actually drawing your students in and letting them have time and space. I think the natural thing is when you're online to lead from the front and to talk a lot, and you know, you'll all ask questions and that's great. But in a classroom, you'll be quite happy to throw a question out to a table saying, let them talk about it. Well, you can do that online, but you have to think about it. You've got to think about the platform that you're using. Can you use breakout rooms? Or could you just, as a tutor, if you've got 4 or 5 people on a call, throw a question out there, let them discuss it, and you go away and have a brew. 2 things there. One is it allows them to express themselves. The other thing is it gives you a bit of a break, you know, and that's really important. So it just requires you to think a little bit differently about this. If you've got a disruptive student and you don't want to call them out in front of everyone, how are you going to tackle that? Well, if you've got their number, you might be able to say, oh, you know, just send them a text or give them a call or whatever, if you've got the option to use a breakout room or something, because all of the things that we rely on naturally in the classroom don't necessarily transfer to online. And as several people have said, online is going to stay for sure. So we've got to start building parallel skill sets, online and classroom based, and where there's overlap, great, and where there's divergence, we need to recognize that. Put yourself first as well. Think about your own welfare, and then you'll naturally be able to look after your students better.
Absolutely. I think some of the students actually mentioned that initially they couldn't focus, or I think a lot of people have actually agreed that they feel really burnt out. And also another thing with remote working, Nicolette pointed out, was that work-life balance becomes very difficult. But I think quite a few of them are setting themselves goals to keep moving and using their Fitbits. And she also said that the patience from the tutor was key to kind of just help her in that difficult situation. And Fiona actually gave a good point about issues with confidence in going back to face-to-face. So, you know, it kind of works both ways. So initially we were used to face-to-face, and then there's this lack of confidence going online. And now that we're so used to this for like well over a year now, you know, how is it going to feel going back into the classroom? That's going to be nerve-wracking.
I'll say, given the first session after doing that, it'll come right back, you know.
Yeah.
It's like being away from teaching for a long time. It'll come straight back. It's just having that confidence. I mean, the one important thing, whatever you are teaching, knowledge is power. And if you are well confident in the subject you're teaching, after the first session, I guarantee you'll be fine. You'll be just don't dwell on the fact that you're going to be nervous. That's probably the worst thing you can do, usually.
Well, you won't be the only nervous person in the room either, will you? If you think about that, everyone else will have this uncertainty and this, you know, whatever it is. But gradually we'll get there, and we'll find the balance. That's human nature. We can adapt to pretty much anything, providing we give ourselves the chance to.
Well said.
I do like the example that Fiona put about using the oxygen mask. You know, if you're in a plane and it's all going horribly tonto, put your own mask on first before you try and help someone out. I think that's a lesson I learned many years ago, not literally, but, you know, metaphorically. And I was in the RAF for a few years, so I probably did use it literally as well. But, you know, look after yourself, and other things will naturally follow.
Anybody have anything else they sort of want? Yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, you know, everyone is kind of sharing the fact that just being here today and knowing that there are other people who feel exactly the same way. There are other people who are feeling burnt out. There are other people who are struggling with all the same issues has really, really helped. And a lot of people found this refreshing. So that's brilliant.
And I think it's important for people to know that, you know, we're human beings, we've had issues, so we know what you're going through. You know, we're not robots. We do understand these things. So.
Absolutely. Can I just quickly ask each of you to give your one best tip for stress reduction that you use currently? Well, Tony.
On the spot there.
Anyone, not necessarily.
Exercise, number one.
Yeah, meditation.
I think for me, it's that break away from the computer and just learning to get up and walk in the garden and come back in again. Even that makes sense.
Yeah, going out.
Sorry, I've got a bird feeder I've put in the garden opposite my window, and even when I just go to make a cup of tea, I just sit and watch the birds while the kettle's boiling.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Amazing.
Yeah, that is.
I went to the beach to work the other day. You know, just got in the car and went somewhere and sat somewhere different.
Yeah, silly things like that just make a massive difference to how you feel, don't they?
Totally.
Yeah, or just have yummy chocolate cake. That makes me feel good. It really does.
Cake is great. Cake can solve a lot of problems. Yeah. What I love doing is actually, I've told my kids that I need power hugs. So when I really feel zapped, I guess it works when they're a certain age. I know that smile. But yeah, so you know, when they're younger and cuddly, and you can just you know, you step outside the room for a while and you just find a kid, and you know, I say, I need a power hug, I really need a power hug, and you get so much cuteness, and it just revives you, really. So that's kind of my thing.
Dogs are great.
Oh yeah,
I get lots of fuss.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They're not just for lockdown, Tony. Dogs for life, not the lockdown. But yeah, they're my children. Whilst the children are away at university, they're my children.
I've also written a blog on mental health. So if somebody wants to go check that out, it's all about how to cope up and, it's okay to talk about your problems and just go on with life and be positive. It's the main key point.
That's fantastic. There's some great ideas as well from Sam about keeping the notebook and
Yeah, I just read that. That's brilliant, Sam.
and Nicolette as well for the planning a treat, something to look forward to. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I was wondering, Dee, if you wanted to talk about your weekend project just quickly that you just finished in the garden.
What?
You know, the tiki bar.
Oh, yeah, that's what we've done every weekend. We've built a tiki bar in the garden, but I've learned how to screw holes in wood, how to cut wood. I've used all these carpentry tricks and everything now. So, but yeah, just refocusing, doing something completely different, learning new skills. That just keeps you going. I feel really great by the Monday morning because I'm like, I've done this and I've done that.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's just, like you say, it's just doing stuff and being outside. I think is massive. Being outside it makes such a difference to you. Yeah. Take up a new skill. Knitting, waffle making, carpentry. I've done them all. And I'm still working full time.
It's overrated.
Well, hobbies. So, anyway, yeah, my ties all around, definitely, Sam. Come over to my bar.
Like there's a few people heading on there, guys. That's us, our webinar complete. Thank you all very much indeed for attending. Yeah, and great to have some participation from yourselves as well, your ideas and thoughts as well. Okay, so yeah, as always, we're always here. We just don't finish after we finish this webinar. Need any help, any chat, by all means, you know where to contact us. Okay, have a great remainder of your Wednesday. Roll on Friday afternoon, and yeah, take care. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.